mothers raise babies into boys and fathers raise boys into men. What do you do to be safe of being pregnant again? Well, right now we're not having sex.
Kidding me?
We just had sex like every day or almost every day. Just give me 2 minutes.
That wasn't the annoying part. The annoying part was like, oh, I'm ovulating today.
Yeah, really like spend as much time with each of them that I can without letting the older boys feel like, oh, mom's just like with the baby all the time now and she like never pays attention to us or plays with us or does anything special with us. I mean, I can't fucking sleep. Like, I feel like shit. I'm nauseous all the time. I can't even recline in a chair like this without getting nauseous. I want him to grow into an independent man. A father figure that he's spending a lot of time with is a really important piece of that. Welcome back. We are now parents of 3. This is our first podcast. This is like our catch-up podcast. I'm Nancy Anderson. This is my baby daddy of 3, Max Anderson.
Hi.
How do you feel as a dad of 3 now?
Feels good. Feels right.
Feels right, yeah. We have some questions from the community. We're going to just like rapid fire answer some FAQs that we've been getting. Social media has been busy. My inbox has been flowing. So we just thought it'd be kind of cool to sit down and answer some of the questions we get the most from you guys. It has to do with like him and I. I've also gotten a ton of questions about programs and like breastfeeding and weight loss and rehab and stuff. So I will also be answering those, but mostly on stories like bite by bite. And these questions are more like where Max can also chip in and kind of like be part of the conversation. So start us off, Max. What is the questions that we've gotten from the community?
All right. So number 1 is, were you trying for a girl?
Yeah, that kind of, because I had this dream, which I told you guys about before, where I thought that I was going to have 2 boys and a girl, and I had the first 2 boys in the order that happened in the dream, and then the third one was a girl in the dream, and the dream felt so real, I thought it was going to come true. So I kind of was, I think, assuming it was going to be a girl and also like hoping it was going to be a girl because like I wanted to like fulfill the fantasy of that dream, I guess, because it felt like my future was, you know. But I mean, I just wanted a healthy baby, and it sounds so cliche and like typical, but if it was a healthy boy, I would have been totally stoked to add one more.
Yeah.
You know,
What's another one?
Batch
Were you
of
surprised?
testosterone. I don't think I was surprised. I was more like taken back that it actually happened. Like I was like very like emotional about it. Like, oh my God, it came true. Like, yeah, the whole thing has been super emotional for me, like in a good way. Well, like a happy tears way, I guess just to say. I guess I should say. By the way, my brain has like cobwebs in it. You know how it's like when you're postpartum and like it's just not firing on all cylinders. That's what I feel like. I need to vacuum out my brain because there's a little too much dust in there right now. But so sorry if I'm like stumbling on my words or like can't, you know. Yeah. That's me like all day, every day right now.
Well, how come none of the images or video from the gender reveal?
I put those up.
Made it out.
Yeah, I put those up.
The initial one, the white one.
No, the one that you were like pranking me. No, but we already talked about that. That went out on a podcast a long time ago. Were you
I was
trying
saying
for
the
a girl?
surprise elements. I don't know how you try for a girl. No, I mean I don't know how that works.
Or were you hoping for a girl?
No, I mean either way. I think that I don't know. I never really put any thought into it. I was hoping it was a girl, just because it's like, you know.
Want to try something different?
Well, I don't like want to try something different. It's like, you know, it's
experience something different.
Yeah, it's just, you know, you could, you know, or close to not having or close to having all boys, right?
Yeah.
And then like it's a girl, and it's like, okay, that's very different, very different.
Yeah,
so it's exciting.
It totally is. It is different, I have to say. Like just having boys first and then a girl, like it definitely feels different, and not just because she has lady parts. Like it feels different. I don't really know how to like explain it, but even like her energy just feels feminine. Like it just feels more gentle and like, don't make me cry already. We just started.
Let's cut and get back upstairs.
But a lot of people, I know. This is like my first time like being like away from her. But like she's right here. Like I can see she's sleeping right now.
Got her on camera.
Well,
I think it's a perspective for me. That's when I look at it. It's like, you know, if you didn't have a girl, you'd go through the rest of your life not knowing what it's like to have a girl.
Yeah.
And that perspective, I think, is very unique and I'm appreciative of it.
Yeah.
So.
Another question that I've definitely seen a lot come through my inbox is like, did you do anything specific to try for a girl? Like when you were actually like trying to conceive?
Yeah.
And no, like I know there's all these like things that you can do. Like, well, if you have, if you have sex like later in your ovulation period or earlier in your ovulation period, because the girls like last longer than the boys and like you have a better chance. I don't know if any of that's true. Like I've never looked up like anything scientific to like prove it one way or another. I'm pretty sure it's mostly myths, but could be wrong. All I know is I never really knew when I actually ovulated that month. We just had sex like every day or almost every day for like a week straight or maybe a little bit longer than that. And Max
felt like a week. I think it was like 3 days.
Max was like, leave me alone. Like every night I'm like, you ready? He's like, leave me the fuck alone. I just want to like Netflix and chill. And I'm like, just 5 minutes. Just give me 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
That wasn't the annoying part. The annoying part was like, oh, I'm ovulating today. And then you like had text like, oh, that's actually today. And you're like, okay. Then as we have sex and it's like, oh, the next day it's like, oh, no, today's the day I'm ovulating. And I'm like, well, fucking dude, which one is it? Like, when are you ovulating? We have no idea. Like, let's just have sex to have sex. Like, the planning is killing us.
No, I know. It is not as like fun, I guess. Like when you're just like, let's just see what well, we have done that. We have just been like, let's just see what happens. And then we turn up pregnant. Like, we've experienced that. So this is just like a different experience this time.
And the 1 month it didn't work, we got a dog. Right? That was how it worked, right?
Yeah. So I'm a planner and a control freak. So when I feel like I need to be in control and things don't go my way, I'm like, So that month, we got COVID that month. We tried and didn't conceive. And then I was like, well, maybe this isn't going to happen for me or maybe it's going to take a long time. So let me get a puppy. And then the next month, the next cycle, pregnant. And then there was a puppy on the way. And I was like, oh.
A puppy on the way.
Because you got to buy it and then wait 5 weeks before it actually arrives. So I'm like, shit, I'm pregnant and there's a puppy coming. Not the best idea. Still regretting that one. Not regretting, but like. Kind of.
Well, outside of Violet, like, how has the family dynamic changed for you?
Yeah, I mean, we're only 6 weeks in, like, so
we're pros.
I'm sure. I'm sure there's a lot to learn still, and like a lot that's gonna shift and change. But it's been really cool to see my boys have a little sister. And for me, like, I just feel like a lot more. I don't know, I've slowed down a lot, like just being like present in the moment and like being with my kids and trying to, really like spend as much time with each of them that I can without letting the older boys feel like, oh, mom's just like with the baby all the time now and she like never pays attention to us or plays with us or does anything special with us. So I don't really know. I guess I don't know how that dynamic has changed yet. I mean, the way we're spending time, like Max is like spending a lot more time alone with the boys, like taking them to do like older kid stuff while I am with the baby, which eventually that will shift, I think, and we'll kind of like be back all together more. But, there's no point in really taking Paisley out on all these like older kid excursions right now. She's only 6 weeks old. So we're staying at home more and you're venturing out. How do you feel like the dynamic has changed?
I think you're a lot more calm than you have been, which has been nice. Just like you're very present in the moment, like you said. And I think, you and I both struggle with that just on average. But that's been really nice. I mean, I enjoy hanging out with the boys. It's like, I think it's that to me is a huge like bonus. But it's a lot more work on like doing every single drop off, every single pickup and like for like months on end. So it's like, that's, it's like, you have to do both. You have the good and the bad. But it's just fun. I mean, it's like I help out. Like I'm like a useful member of the family. So that's been nice.
Totally. I think that's definitely for like dads that have just, if you have a third kid or mom has a baby at home, dad has to like step up, but like more has to fall on him because the mom is like at home breastfeeding and recovering and doing baby stuff that dad just like can't really do, right now.
Yeah.
So it's definitely been a lot more, and even at the end of the pregnancy, a lot more was like kind of pushed over to your plate.
Yeah, it's been good. But I think it's interesting because I think one of the dynamics I thought was like when you think about kids and it's like you worry about having enough time. Like everyone's worried about having enough time, you know, because you have to divide it by like another, like it's 1 to 2 or 2 to 3, and you kind of I find you like you worry about less. Like so you're more intentional with the time you spend because it's more of a premium.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm not like concerned about not being there in certain areas. So you can see both sides, but you can see like when they're 8 versus when they're 8 weeks. So it's like I think it's easier to slow down in that regard, where it's like I don't need to like develop more hours in a day. I just need to be more thoughtful about the hours that I have. Like you know, kind of like by necessity. So
Yeah.
I think that's been good too.
Like you're more like okay with the fact that you're not like a huge part of Paisley's day to day right this second because you will be in 6 months or whatever.
Well, I think, you know, jumping ahead to the bonding with baby question is like with dad.
Recommendations, asking for recommendations on how dad can bond with the baby.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, my take, like, it kind of seems like a myth. Like I think that when guys, like, I think men want to be really helpful. Like, men want to help the family out. However it is, right? And we also want to be a man, right? We're trying to balance those two things, and then not to say they're mutually exclusive, but like the baby's not like you do not like I do nothing. Like like the baby looks at me, is like, what the fuck are like what piece do you play in this all? Like I got mom over here, so it's like, and I think that it's actually hard. This is the thing that's like it's harder because I think if you have one child, you're like bonding with the baby, and it's like. He's a fucking baby. Like, like, don't worry about bonding with your you're not 1 year old, but like, you know, your 6-week-old. Like, they're just a baby. Like, so now I can see when they're 8 and they're 6 and they're 7, and it's like, oh no, my time will come. Right. Yeah. Right now I'm a support function, so I'm like a bench player. But like my time, but if all you are is a bench player, and you're like, well, you're bonding with baby, and it's like, no, fucking. Be patient.
Yeah,
like,
when all you are is a bench player and you stay a bench player, like I feel like that is like a problem. Because I think a lot of people maybe in the audience have husbands that just like don't, or what they're kind of like asking me sometimes is their husbands are never really pulling a lot of weight. So a lot of things are falling on mom even as the kid grows up.
Wait, you're talking about bonding with a baby, or are you talking about helping out around the house though?
Well, you're saying you're like a support function. And
yeah, but I'm saying, I'm just saying I'm not like bonding with the baby. Like when I hold Paisley or whatever it is, like I'm holding her to help out. You know what I mean? Like she wants to be with you.
Right.
Like, you know, so like, it's not this like, oh my gosh, it's like, this is a magical moment that I'm like, like when I rock her to sleep, to me, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But you know, I just don't put too much emphasis on that. But the helping out is a different, we can dive into that.
Right. Well, some recommendations from me, like as a mom, where I take like an opportunity to have Max spend some time with the baby, is just like, you know, when she has her like awake time, when she can do like her tummy time or like sit on her little play mat or get held and like walk around and like look at stuff while she's like in that wake period. That's when I'll hand her off to Max. So like I can go to the bathroom or eat or get ready for bed or whatever I'm doing or spend time with the boys. And I know that she's like full and it's 20 minutes that they can spend together. Bottles, like when she's starting to get more bottles, so like now he's like starting to like help out with those a little bit, so that's like some time they can spend together. And then the other thing like Max mentioned is some contact naps. Like she's only 6 weeks, so we still are doing some contact naps. I try not to do more than like one a day right now because we're trying to actually get her on a schedule so I can work more. But that's another thing that I would definitely recommend. And then I saw this like thing on the internet, like a psychologist was like kind of talking and it was saying like, you know, mothers, it was about boys, but it was like mothers raise babies into boys and fathers raise boys into men kind of thing. And I thought that was like a good perspective to have because, you know, when they're like 5 and under, a lot of times I think girl or boy, I mean, my experience so far is with boys, they want their mom. Like they want to be with their mom. Like they want to be emotionally supported by their mom. They want to be taken care of by their mom. They want to spend time with their mom. They're very attached to mom. And I think that's healthy and fine. But like, you know, we noticed a shift and we supported a shift, you know, at like 5, 6, where like they were taking a bigger interest in dad and now they wanted to do guy stuff. And we have an 8.5 almost year old, and they have such a tight relationship, and now they're doing sports and coaching. And then our 5-year-old is like starting to like follow that same trend. So I think that is like, one, helps me compartmentalize the fact that like I'm so needed and like sometimes overstimulated by how much in demand I am as a mother when they are younger. But now that I have an 8-year-old, I see that like this is not forever, and like he's going to start really wanting to spend a lot more time with Max, because like that's the natural progression. Like I don't want to keep him a mama's boy forever. Like I want him to grow into an independent man that, thrives. And I think a father figure that he's spending a lot of time with is a really important piece of that. So that's like another thing that helps me to kind of like think about it, is like they might not be like super bonded when they're toddlers or babies or even like 4-year-olds, whatever that would be, like little kids, but they get there eventually. And it's sort of like a natural progression. And I think it's very normal part of like how we develop as humans in the household.
Yeah.
So don't like stress about it too much.
Yeah.
And then we all kind of already answered this one about like how you like help me. But I mean, in the beginning when I was like, Max basically was with me like nonstop in the very beginning, when I like basically couldn't get out of bed without him helping me. Like after a C-section, for me at least, I can't even get to the bathroom like by myself. Like I'm like holding and like leaning on him, because when you stand up from laying down, that like rush of blood is so painful that like you can barely walk, so he was a huge support function helping me in that first few weeks, where like I can't really sit up out of bed without pain, or without like pulling at my incision. So a part of it is pain, but also a part of it is like being smart about your recovery. Like I'm not going to like sit up out of bed by myself and put all that tension on the incision or my core that isn't ready to handle it, for example. So, going to my side and having Max kind of like pull me up, and getting me food. I mean, really everything. I mean, you were doing everything for me. My mother-in-law came out for 3 weeks in the beginning, which was a huge help, because she helped with the older kids, so Max could help me. Because it's like a little bit like embarrassing, not embarrassing, but like I don't feel like as comfortable being like calling like my assistant into the room to like get me out of bed or something, or like calling my mother-in-law upstairs to like help me go to the bathroom. Like I feel more comfortable with my husband doing that, so she kind of helped out with the older kids so that Max could help me, and that was huge. I mean, so helpful. And then before, we have a night nurse this time, but another question I get a lot is like about nighttime, like help, like how are you like doing it at nighttime? Well, this time we have a night nurse that comes every night. So she takes over at 9, and then I sleep for about 6 hours. Now I'm getting up and doing my ab rehab and working out and showering and helping get the boys ready before she leaves at 7 a.m. and I take over with the baby again. But when we didn't have a night nurse for the first 2 kids, what we would do is I would go to bed at 8:30 or 9. Like I now go to bed at 9:30, but around that same time. And Max would do like the first shift of the night. So from 9 p.m. until like 1 or 2 a.m., maybe like 2 a.m.,
Yeah.
Max would be like on duty. So he would be with the baby, whether the baby was sleeping or whether the baby needed to be fed a bottle or changed or rocked or whatever in that newborn phase. That was his shift, because he's more of a night owl and I'm more of a morning person. So then at 2 a.m. or 2:30 a.m., I would really probably 2 a.m. I would get up, take over with the baby, pump, and then I would be with the baby from 2 a.m. on. So I never like pulled like all nighters with the baby. I might have done it with Kenzie at first, and I learned very quickly that my mental health was not going to sustain that. So even with Kenzie, we started doing split shifts, and it was really hard because Max was working, so he would get 4 hours of sleep or 5 hours of sleep and have to go to work all day. It was tough. So even with doing those split shifts, my mental health was still really struggling with like severe postpartum anxiety. And I only share that because I think that people feel like it's bougie or it's like privileged or whatever to like try to ask for help during the night. But like, when your mental health is like suffering, like you need to ask for help, and for us, we don't have family help around here. So we have to hire help. And, luckily we're in the position to be able to do it. But I mean, I would take out credit card like debt to do it because it's so hard on my mental health. And that's just something that I personally need, and you might not need it because you might thrive off 3 hours of sleep. That's totally fine, and everyone's different, but that's just my personal need, and I know what I need now after having 2 kids. So this time I'm taking it without guilt or shame or being affected by trolls on the internet telling me that I should do it myself or something.
Fuck you, troll.
Yeah. Speaking of night nurses, when will the night nurse finish, and how will you and Max divide sleep wakes after that? Well, the night nurse is not going to finish.
It's actually full time. So
for the rest of her life.
Until Paisley's 3.
No, actually, our main night nurse, Michelle, who's amazing, by the way. If any of you guys are local and you need a night nurse eventually, like, DM me because I'll give you her contact information and you guys can see if it's a good fit for you. But she is staying until Paisley is fully sleep trained and sleeping through the night on her own. So right now, Paisley's 6 weeks, and like the last 2 nights, she slept for 7 or 7.5 hour stretches, like all the way through. So they really should sleep for a 10-hour stretch. So once we get to a 10-hour stretch consistently, that's when the night nurses will sort of like phase out. But I asked her actually this morning, and I'm planning on hopefully keeping her until almost Paisley's 12 weeks. That would be my goal because sometimes it still gets iffy. She's not as big as my boys. So my boys are putting down a little more food than she is, although she still eats a lot, enough to sleep through the night. I just want to, don't want to have any regressions and then not have a night nurse and then start having like anxiety and lack of sleep and stuff like that. So that's when she'll leave, and then we won't really have to divide sleep wakes after that because my kids sleep through the night, which they both have slept through the night for 10 hours like consistently, and they don't really hit regressions. So what do you do to be safe of being pregnant again? Well, right now we're not having sex, so that keeps us pretty safe. But it
Abstinence.
Yeah. We hit 6 weeks on Monday, so hey, I'm open for business.
Mm-hmm.
It's just hard to find time because it's like our night nurse comes at 9 and our kids are basically awake. I mean, our baby is like awake until 9 right now, so it's like we would have to sneak down in our guest house like during the day or something.
Yeah, and if we're not going to have any more kids, like, what's the point?
Stop.
That's the point of having sex, right? Like, that's the goal.
Would you have another kid?
Oh my God, yeah. Are you kidding me?
Dude.
I would have more. Yeah, I for sure. I mean, I don't need more, but like, yeah, for sure. Like, that is a source of all of my inspiration and wealth, are like you guys. So like, I don't give a shit about anything else. Like.
That's very sweet. Don't make me cry.
But it's true. But it's always been the case, though. That was that way before we had kids. They're just an extension of you. So it's like more yous running around. So.
But they look like you.
Yeah. Well, looks aren't everything.
Speaking of, how does it feel knowing it's the last baby? A lot of people are trying for number 3, and it would be their last one, and it's hard to think about it being the last baby, which I get. I don't know. This postpartum experience has been very different for me. Oh my gosh, I can't talk about this without crying. And just because it's my last baby, like, it's just been really emotional. Not that I want more kids, because I feel like this is complete for me. But it's just like knowing that like every like stage or day that passes is like the last time you'll be able to do it. It's just like, I don't know why it's like so emotional.
I do. Do you want me to tell you my theory?
Sure.
Okay. So I think that you're emotional because your body knows that it's not your last one. That's my theory. I mean, studies have shown that, but they're not peer reviewed yet.
Yeah, let me just keep copying and pasting Max's genes. Your genes are just bragging at this point. They're just like.
This is another kind of these questions are kind of proof that like men and women are just very differently. They think very differently because like I don't think about any of these. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't even think about like, hey, like my preference would be to just let things play out naturally and like whatever happens and be responsible for whatever it is.
I mean, given our historic average, we would have 17 kids.
I'm not saying about this. I'm just saying about everything in general. Like I don't put too much stock into like, oh, what is it going to be? Are you going to have more? It's like, hey, let's like whatever happens. Like, don't be all willy-nilly about it. But like, I don't stress over about thinking about things that are like in that realm.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
I didn't care. We have 2 kids. Like, I didn't need a 3rd kid. Like, it's from 2 to 3. It's like, it's weird because you have house money. Like, you have 2 happy, healthy kids. And it's like, I don't know, like, throw one more in or don't. Like, and like we could easily be, and like this summer's a great example, right? We can easily be just balling out this summer. Because like last summer was awesome.
Yeah.
First time having 2 kids that are old enough to do almost anything. Like, best summer ever. And then, like, you go off that summer, and then this summer will be a lot of fun, but will be very different. And it's like, we're like, all right, we're going to be here the whole time, which is awesome to be here. But it's like, okay, we have a baby. Then we got to, we're doing this, and then we can't go to Blackie's together as much because, someone's got to be with the baby. So, but then they grow up and, then we'll be doing those things. And
yeah, I think that's like the one thing is like when I was a new mom or like a mom of 1 or even a mom of like 2, it's like you just feel like it's never going to end. Like it's always going to be really hard. You're always going to be looking for like someone about to fall or hit their head or like choke on something. And really it's not like that. I mean, they get to be 6 and they become like super independent, self-sufficient. They can get up in the morning and like make themselves breakfast and like get themselves dressed. And it just opens the doors of this whole new stage of parenthood that I find extremely enjoyable. Like I love, it's like people are like, well, what's your favorite age? My favorite age is like the age my kids are at right this second, like whatever second that is. Like I love every stage that we're in, like I thought like when they were 4, like, oh, it's so fun right now. Like they're starting to get their personality and and then they turn 6 and I'm like, oh my God, it's so fun right now because they have their own friends and we're doing all these social activities. And then they turn 8 and you're like, oh, it's so fun right now because they're like really coming into their own and like he's really getting good at this and like it's so fun to see his passion for that. So for me, I mean, at least in the first 8.5 years of being a mom is like I love every stage. I mean, the newborn stage is the hardest for me personally, but as they get older, it just becomes, for me, more and more fun, more and more rewarding, fulfilling, enjoyable. Like, I just love watching the dynamic of our family, like, blossom and, like, see how, like, all the puzzle pieces, like, fit together. And I love seeing, like, our boys' relationship grow and, like, shift and change and blossom and, like, it's just so cool. So the last thing I just wanted to say about trying for the 3rd is that I like can't say this without crying again, but like we almost stopped at 2. Like there was definitely a period of time where we're like, we should just, this is really good right now. Like we don't really want to start all over again because there was a 5.5-year gap between Paisley and our middle. So we should just like be thankful for what we have and just roll with this family of 4. And I am so glad that we tried for a 3rd. Like I'm just so glad I went for it. It was daunting. Like I really hate pregnancy. Like I'm literally a crazy person when I'm pregnant. Like I can't even tell you guys. Like I am a huge miserable bitch. Like
yeah, just word of advice out there: never start a podcast with your pregnant wife. If I had a time machine,
and that's why I stopped doing the podcast. Like I'm like, I can't do the podcast with you. I hate being around you. Like I just can't. I want to be by myself. I don't want anyone around me until I deliver this baby. Like I don't know. Like in fact, it's kind of funny. Like the pregnancies are always really rough for our marriage, like our relationship. Like I'm like allergic to Max. I feel like I'm just so disgusted by him. I can't stand the way he smells or like anything that he does. And not just you, like really everyone just like bugs me where I'm just like, I just want to be alone. Like leave me the fuck alone. Like I just so irritable, So we went to this like new marriage therapist or whatever. And that was a good session for me, that lady we did on Zoom, because she basically in so many ways like laughed at us and was like, what you're dealing with here is a very short phase of a huge long-term relationship that's going to last for 50 years. This is a blink in your long-term relationship. Everything that you're feeling and dealing with right now is due to the phase that you're in, the hormones, the pregnancy, the change, the, whatever. Basically like have the baby, give it a year, 6 months, and then come back and see me. You're not going to have any of these issues. And I mean, in a lot of ways, she was right. Like it's crazy how much pregnancy hormones impact me. Like, I know that everyone is different, but for me, I mean, I can't fucking sleep. Like, I feel like shit. I'm nauseous all the time. I can't even recline in a chair like this without getting nauseous. It's miserable in every sense of the word, and I'm a huge bitch, and I'm sorry for everything I said and did, which I don't even remember what it was, but I'm sure it was bad.
I do.
But
but in all fairness, though,
I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah,
it was worth it. Was it worth it? Me being a bitch.
Oh yeah. Oh well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I know what I signed
Was
up
it
for.
worth it?
Yeah. but no, that was the I mean, that's got to factor into your age, right? Because it's like
I don't even know.
That definitely was the gnarliest of the three.
Well, a lot of people wrote me and said it's because it was a girl.
Yeah,
like they said, hey, I was such a raging bitch when I was pregnant with my daughter. Like, my hormones were crazy. Like, I had worse acne, which I definitely had that too. A lot of people wrote me that resonated with that. Like, with my boys, I felt like pretty normal. But with my girl, I was so hormonal. And I don't know if it was my age. I don't know if it was because of third pregnancy. I don't know if it was because of something else that was going on with me. I have no idea what it was, but it was mentally probably the hardest pregnancy. Emotionally, I should say, not mentally. I don't think I had like a mental. It wasn't like my mental health was really suffering. It was like emotionally, I was just like a lot to handle.
More than usual.
But I'm so glad I did it. She was literally, oh my God, I'm so glad I did it. So, like, if you are on the fence, I just encourage you to just take a leap. Take a leap of faith. She is amazing, and I just, like, I can't even imagine, like, my life without her. She's only been here for, like, a month. It's just, like, amazing. Okay, so how do you avoid resentment building towards Hub? It's so hard for me. I don't want to hog all the questions. So I'm giving this back to you. How do I avoid resentment? Has been a huge issue in the parenthood journey of us, which has been our whole marriage, basically, because I was pregnant at the wedding, which I don't really recommend, but, like, you do you. I think communication is, like, such a huge part of this, because when you let resentment build, then you start, like, taking shit out on him that, like, he doesn't deserve to have taken out on him, because it doesn't really warrant the response that you're giving. But you're giving that response because you've had it up to here with other shit that you've overlooked or you've bottled up or you haven't spoken about. So I think the way that you communicate is also a huge part of it. So, you know, like, one thing that really kind of I feel very messy in the brain when there's a mess around me in real life. So Max is the opposite of that. Like, he could live in any circumstance.
You should see the van.
Yeah. Yeah. Our Bree, our amazing assistant, well, mine really, but she helps Max out sometimes too. Well, like, you know, I won't even go in Max's car, but I'll, like, text Bree, like, do you think we could get the van washed? And she's probably, like, on the other side of the text, like, fuck, I have to go in that shithole. Have to dig through.
Sprinter's coming.
Yeah, Bree said she draws a line at the Sprinter. She said, I'm not doing that. She's saying no. I'll have to hire someone to come to the house. But yeah, Max is, you know, I love you, but he's very messy. Like, he just doesn't care about his mess, like, doesn't put things away. That really, oh God, that could build some resentment in me. Because if I keep cleaning up his messes, every time, you know, it starts adding up. So I used to just snap, you know, after I got to a certain point, like, God, you're so fucking messy. Like, clean your shit up, you know. But now I just try to take a different approach, because how I deliver my communication to him will impact the way that he reacts and engages with me. So, you know, now I go at a much gentler approach, and I'll do it much earlier in the build-up cycle. So I would recommend that to, like, anyone dealing with resentment towards the husband is, like, you know, ask him for help. Like, men are very simple creatures, and they just need to be told what to do, but you have to do that in a very, like, kind, loving, not threatening way. So what I will do is I'll say, you know, I'm feeling, like, really overwhelmed with, like, how, like, messy everything is right now. Do you think that you could help me clean up? Or you think you could help me by making dinner for the boys while I clean up? Or, like, you know, I'll do something like that. And it just facilitates a much better engagement between us and on how to kind of manage that, because I know that it doesn't bother him. So I can't say, don't you see like how like messy it is? Like clean, like when you see these messes, like clean it up. He doesn't even look for the mess. It doesn't bother him. He's not impacted by it. So I need to speak of my need. I'm feeling very overwhelmed with like how this is going. Do you think that you could help me buy X, Y, and Z? And he very rarely will say no. Like sometimes he'll be like, "Can I do it later?" And
Well,
but you help. You help
I don't
out.
say sometimes going to do it later. I think that adding on what you're saying, it's important to set a time window on what you would like something done. So
Right,
you can't
that's
be a
true.
mind
That's a
reader,
good-
right?
that's a
So
good
it's
point.
like
That's a
it's
good
like
point.
it's like I'm a problem solver. So like when I hear about something a mess and I'm like, oh, I really it's a mess. It's like then we have a bunch of people helping us clean stuff up. So it's like I don't view the house ever as really messy, and I don't view that me the one kind of specifically making a mess.
Oh yeah,
I have
totally.
like my work stuff, or I'll
Right.
leave something out. But it's like my thought would be like rule number one of making a mess would have fewer things to make a mess from, right? So that would be my way of solving the problem, which is largely unhelpful to you, right? Like so you're like that's not like somebody getting that argument like back and forth, but it's like you should expect as the boss of the household, which you are. You can't expect someone, just like your boss of your employees, like you can't expect them to read your mind.
Yeah.
So you need to give them very clear and thorough deadlines and of like, especially with men, literal, I need this done by then. Because you're like, hey, I'm going to do this. And it's like, all right, I'll do that. And you're like, and then you come out and you're like, why isn't this done? And it's like, well, you didn't tell me I needed to do it right. That's like, I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm just it's been a long day. I'm just relaxing right this second. The last thing I want to do is get up or if you know have anything going on. So,
Yeah.
If you want to like, just be very specific in terms of what you're asking for.
Yeah, that's good advice.
And don't feel bad about asking. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and the thing is like, the whole like idea behind resentment to me is like just a very foreign just to my brain because like I'm such a team guy. So it's like, I would expect you to be different than me. Like that's what makes us a great team.
Yeah.
So like the fact that we don't view things the same way is a strength, and I think a lot of times like the partner can view it as a negative.
Totally.
You're like, oh, you don't clean up, you don't do this, you don't do that. And it's like, well, like yeah, I could literally make those exact same arguments about you, but then it would be this tit for tat game where if you think about it logically, our source of our strength is our differences, right? Like, and one of the differences like isn't like, oh, like you love the kids, I don't. We care a lot about the same things we care about, but the list of stuff that we are different on is much longer than the list of stuff we are eye to eye on.
Yeah.
And like I feel like a lot of people like expect it to be the other way around.
Yeah.
And it's like, on what universe would that be? Like,
Yeah.
I'd be like dating a man or something. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
that's what I
it's
was
like
just
that's
saying.
not
I was
it's not a
just thinking
characteristic
that
that
is
you would have. Like,
yeah, it's like I think women by nature take it upon themselves to like be a little more proactive about certain things, like especially in the household. Like our babysitter, like she sees there's like crumbs all over the floor, she's like, let me just grab the vacuum and like clean that up real quick. Or like Bree is like really good, she'll just take things upon it. She's like, I see this like the drawer of mail like needs to be gone through, so I'm just gonna do it. Men I don't think do that very much. Like they're not like looking at it the way that we look at it. So I think it's maybe the same way that like I don't look at like investments the way that Max looks at it. So I have to like look to Max to like kind of guide me like on those things. Just like he needs to look to me, or I need to take it upon myself to guide him in other ways, which is a lot of like household stuff, which he just doesn't think about, which is fine. I think recognizing the differences and appreciating the differences is also part of it.
Yeah. Well, you can expect another thing kind of you were saying about you went in finance. I was going to think more technology, where it's like so many times I'll come to you and I'll be like, oh, there's this thing I'm so excited, and I don't really have anyone to kind of like talk to these things about. So like you as my best friend, it's like you are like my target, and then you're just like, I don't fucking care. And it's like so disappointing for me that you don't want to engage on this topic, but that's such an unfair expectation that I have. So I think the more interesting thing to look about in terms of resentment is like your expectations are shaping that resentment. You're expecting a result that you're not having that's going to create that anger. So you can control like your tone and how you say stuff and lowering your expectation. Like not in like I'm not saying like have no expectations, but like
you just can't expect people to react the way that you want them to react.
And that's a lesson to me, it's a life lesson, because it's not just like my most notable ones are like in business, because I get really excited about ideas and I have a million of them, and I'm always going. Then I'm looking for someone to validate that idea, and that's not their job to validate the idea. It's my idea.
Yeah.
Like I don't need buy-in from, like, I don't need you to tell me it's bad. I don't need you to tell me it's good. I don't need, like, you want someone, as humans, we want to share something. Like, it's like having your favorite music and, like, no one else liking it, right? It's like, oh, no, I like people that like my same music. And we want to be around people that have shared interests. And a lot of our shared interests.
That's why that guy that you're working with is so good, Marley.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
so good.
just engineers
Max
in
is
general.
just so
Yeah.
different brain than me. So I try to wrap, as much as I can. But sometimes I'm already like a little overstimulated, and then he's like coming in about like something that's a little bit over my head, and I'm like, I can't do this right now. But I love that. I love that about you. That's one of my favorite things about you. I do.
You don't like to
It's-
interface with it, but you do. Yeah.
At times I like to interface with it, but it takes a lot. It's like asking you, like, can you go clean the entire house real quick? Which, like,
That's
I
what I'm
could do
saying.
in
Yeah.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
Wouldn't stress me out at all. Like, boom, 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 done. Looks spotless.
Yeah.
That would be so overwhelming for him to take on, and he would have a hard time getting through it. That's kind of how it is for me to have conversations that are about, like, technology, where it's like coding and all or science. It's like, I mean, maybe my side of science with like kinesiology, but like it's hard, for me.
Yeah.
Personally. So I try my best, but sometimes I'm not in the position to do it.
Yeah, and you're right. And it's not a fair expectation. How do we transition from 2 to 3 kids?
How to transition from 2 to 3 kids. I think for me, I'm a planner, so having a plan, like when that transition is actually happening, and asking or hiring, or however it works for your situation and family, as much help as you can, I think really help the transition be smooth. Like for me, from my perspective, and just knowing my kids, I think the transitions has been pretty smooth for all of us. Like there hasn't been any major like meltdowns or major fights or arguments or hiccups. Like it was pretty smooth. But my mother-in-law was here for 3 weeks. She was here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she was like driving our kids around so they didn't have to like stop their life or not attend sports or whatever. And we had a night nurse booked, and I have like other people that we have helping out, and that really helped our transition. Another thing that I would just like recommend is for the older kids is to still, like, I had this thing that I did with my boys where it's like I told them when the baby comes, if you're ever feeling like mommy needs to have some special time with you, then you don't have to say anything. You can just walk up to me and you can just grab my hand and you can just put in our special code. And like we made a little like code where they would like draw a box on my hand kind of with like dots or whatever. And then I knew that you needed mommy's time. So as soon as I could, I'm going to put the baby down and I'm going to come spend time with you. And I did that, the first like 3 weeks or so, especially Leo needed that, which is my middle.
I was going to say, I didn't get code. That's news. This is all news to me. Okay.
Let's we have a handshake. We'll do our handshake.
All right.
So I recommend that. It worked really well. Like there are many times that Leo came in and either said, I need special time with you, or, did his little thing on my hand. And I think that really helped because I think what could cause some behavior issues or like whatever with the kids is that like they feel ignored, left out. They feel like mommy doesn't spend time with them anymore. And then just really being vocal with the kids about how it's going to go. Like the baby is going to take a lot of my time. She's going to need to eat every 3 hours. And I would pull up pictures of them when they were her age and show them like, look at what mommy was doing with you when you were this age. Like you also loved the boppy and you also loved breastfeeding. You also loved this binky, And I think that kind of helped like put the pieces together for them. And they are also older. So that helped the transition a lot. Like we have a 5.5-year-old and we have an 8-year-old. So it's not like we have a 4, 1, and newborn. That's like a whole different state or situation that I don't think I have good advice for. So I am sorry. I can just tell you what worked for us. But that I think has helped really smooth the transition. And then Max has obviously been a lot more hands-on with the boys, like making sure they can still do fun activities like the trampoline park and playing sports and going to the parks and like all that stuff. So I think that was helpful. And then having their grandparents here, giving them some special time, I think was really great. And then between me and you, I mean, I think the transition you know, by the third kid, I don't know. I feel like you just figure things out easier.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, we're going to get through this. You know, it's like, this is a phase, like a little bit of a roommate phase of the relationship.
Yeah.
Pregnancy is too, where it's kind of like, all right, like roommates for the next year or two, like
Yeah.
see you on the other side. But like knowing that there is another side, which we know because we have older kids, that like there does come a point where like there's a lot more us time, and there's a lot more date nights, and there's a lot more, you know, time for us. There's just not a lot of time for that right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had like one date night so far in 6 weeks, but like,
Yeah, we were on a good cadence there too. That was a lot of fun. That was probably the best like date night cadence we'd ever had
yeah,
the last couple months.
Yeah,
when you were pregnant.
yeah. And we'll get back to it. You
Oh,
know?
yeah, for
like,
sure.
It's just
For
realizing it's a phase. I mean, it is a phase. It's not going to last forever.
Yeah.
And
we're
we're
more
committed.
and we're more financially stable too.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's a huge piece of it.
I think that's a huge piece of having kids
Huge
as you're
piece of it.
older. Like, if I would have had kids when I was like mid-20s or something, like, oh, it would have been so stressful. I mean, even when we had Kenzie, like, this is the first time I've ever been able to like take a step back from work, you know, which I think has aided a lot in like improving my mental health and like me being present in the postpartum period. Because when you have bills to pay that are hanging over your head and you don't have maternity leave, like no one's paying you for that leave, which I never had payment when I took off work after a pregnancy, that is very stressful on the mom. Like, I felt like, because it was true, I needed to get back to work ASAP, and I couldn't take time to enjoy the newborn phase. Like, I was back at work 3 weeks post C-section with both kids. And with Leo, I mean, I hit the ground fucking running, because my online business, which I guess at the time I was mostly me running, it didn't stop. I took off one slim down challenge. I pushed back, and I just kept running and I ran all that stuff on myself back then. So like, I couldn't take off.
Well, then that's when it took off too, because it was the March.
Yeah, I
when
knew
we
it was.
moved.
I knew there
born in
was
November.
something there, and I was like, I don't have time to slow this down, like foot on the gas kind of thing. I think that's where I have like mom guilt, and I don't want to like get upset about it, but like, I rushed so much back to work with Leo. I feel like I missed like a little bit. So this time I'm trying not to do that.
We moved too. I mean,
there's just a lot going on.
There was a lot happening. That was easily. I mean, I it's interesting. I never thought about that for you, but for me, that was the lowest point of my entire life. Like when Leo was born.
Yeah,
like,
it was a rough.
Before that, like without question, like there's not even a close second like low point to that time.
It was very stressful. Like, I was like the breadwinner back then.
Still are.
Well, we do it together now. But back then, like, it's just tough to be a mom and be the breadwinner. Like, I love what I do, don't get me wrong, but like, holy shit, it was really hard.
It's tough to be in California, living like that.
Yeah, I mean, anywhere though, because like, I would have put that pressure on me to provide. We could have been fucking in Kentucky, and I would have put the pressure on me to provide.
But our cost of living would have been substantially lower in Kentucky.
Yeah.
You'd have been. Yeah.
I don't regret any of it. So don't feel bad for me. I mean, I don't feel bad for myself. It's just like, I have a little bit of like guilt, because I feel like I just like handed Leo off to a babysitter and was like back working 10-hour days, like boom. And, but I try not to do that this time. And we're in a different position now, and we have people that work for us that can help us keep the business running, and still provide everything we need to provide for our clients without me having to like be there all day, every day, which is incredible. I'm so thankful for all you guys. So,
which presents another issue, right? Because you're like, oh, you felt for years, and me too, right? That you're the one, like your presence is what's driving this forward, right? Then you take a step back and you're like, wait a second. It's like, like last month and like what I'm doing. And it's like, oh, wait, no, maybe I can take like some time off, some extended time off. And yeah, I mean, I think every phase is just that. It's a phase, Yeah. You get through it, and it's like, it makes you appreciate, like getting through it makes you appreciate whatever happens next.
Yeah.
It's like, had you not went through that, you wouldn't appreciate, Paisley as much as you have.
Another question people ask is, how has our relationship changed each time we've had a new baby? Which for me, I think our relationship has changed with every birth of a child in different ways. This time I feel like so much more of a team than I think I have in the past. Like with Kenzie, I felt sort of like, and I don't even know if this is true, but I felt like it was like all me. It was like, okay, you're the mom. Like, you kind of like figure it out. And Max went back to work like really, really quickly, which you had to. You had no choice. But that was really hard on our relationship. Like, I remember we lived in Eldon. Like, we had some like pretty intense like fights during that first year, but mostly because we didn't understand each other, and we didn't know how to communicate very well, I don't think, back then. And then with Leo, I think we were pretty much on the same page. We were just sort of like both hustling in our own ways, and we were both in like, I guess that was hard on our marriage, but not because of the baby. I think it was because of like our work situations. Like,
yeah, that was already a hard period.
Yeah, and then we had a baby.
Having another child, yeah.
Yeah. But I don't remember having issues because of Leo. It was more like the work thing. And then after Leo was born, that's when Max started like working with me, which was a whole nother like thing that we had to like figure out, which I think we've done a good job at. It just takes a long time to like figure out how to work with your husband, especially when you're not as like wise. Like, I feel like just in the past few years, I've really gotten wise about like self-improvement, but also understanding and accepting Max for like who he is, and like stop trying to like change him into like be more like me because that's not like a good approach to take in a marriage, and it's not like going to work. They're just going to either ignore you.
Yeah, I don't know how you be you.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do it. It's tough. It's, being trapped inside of our minds.
Yeah.
Oh, same with me. I mean, I'm just saying.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I'm just saying, yeah. But that's the thing about a family, right? It's like it is so hard just to like exist and survive. Like, so like if you cannot have someone around you that doesn't make you better. Like, it is hard enough. And this is like where we kind of challenges like with like on like some of the stuff on my side is like, I often have this thought where it's like, hey, I'm struggling so much. Like, I also don't need all of your struggles. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I sometimes I can't take all of my shit and all of your shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, but that's like where a thing where it's like, but if you're dumping something on me, I'm expecting to solve it. So I'm like, I'm putting that on a list of problems that I'm already trying to struggle for. And it's like that, and that maybe kind of to my earlier point about creating resentment is I think it's natural to have some resentment towards you where it's like, hey, like, get your shit together. Like, and you can have the same thing towards me, but it's like, and that's where I realized, like, oh, she's not wanting you to solve this. Like, she's like, that's actually not why she's coming to you at all. I think that's what your brain is in taking in information. And I think what's been helpful too, talking about kids, is like, you can see Kenzie's the same way. And it's like, it's like, oh, it's not anything that makes Max special. It's like, this is just how
he's wired.
These people are wired, and there's nothing wrong. You have to account for it. You have to be aware of it.
Yeah,
right?
one of our sons is so much like Max. It's like he has Max's brain. So it actually makes me appreciate and accept my husband like so much more, because I see Kenzie doing and saying and acting the exact same way that Max acts, and it helps me just like appreciate him, because that's just who he is. And like, I fully accept Kenzie for who he is, and I need to accept Max for who he is as well. The other day I was venting to Max about something on text message while he was at work, and I was like, I'm just like so annoyed because X, Y, and Z is happening, and and he's like, well, do you want me to like come home and help? And I'm like, okay, this could start an argument where I'm like, yes, I would like you to come home and help, because like I shouldn't be having to like do X, Y, and Z. But really, I didn't want him to come home and help. I just wanted to like vent, you know. But I know as a woman, and all like the practice we've had is like he doesn't know that. He's trying to solve the problem. But there is really no problem to solve right now. So like what I texted him back was, no, Max, I don't want you to come and help. I want you to listen to me complain about it endlessly until I figure out a solution or I feel the you know, I get over it, you know, kind of thing. Like, I just want you to listen to me vent. And then he sends back this picture, like, do your face. He sends back this picture, like, simple man, tell me, like, what to do.
Me dum-dum.
Me dum-dum.
Well, listen.
But, like, try that with your husband, you know? Like, when he goes to, like, solve a problem, be like, actually, there's no problem to solve right now. I just need to talk about this.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again. Until I figure out a solution or I don't care about it anymore. Like, that's what I need as a woman.
Very powerful thing to say. Because, no, it sounds dumb, but it's very true.
So true.
Because as me, I'm like, oh, that makes sense on why it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you want to talk about a problem, not solve it. I want to solve it, not talk about it.
Yeah.
And
no, totally. There's a couple other questions that are more like for me specifically. One is like, how did you process previous birth trauma to mentally prepare for Paisley's pregnancy? I think it's a great question. It's something that like a lot of women struggle with. And like, I can't tell you enough times to like take your trauma, whether it's like childhood trauma, birth trauma, abuse trauma, and take it seriously and like see a professional to like work through that. Like, I have seen therapists since I was 16 years old, on and off, and I saw one through my entire pregnancy with Paisley. I saw one leading up to that pregnancy. I saw one after I had my last miscarriage, which was in between Leo and Paisley, and I just so highly recommend working with a mental health coach. We have them inside the Birth Recovery Center app, shameless plug. You can work with them there at a very affordable rate where they can help you work through some of these things, find the root cause for behaviors or thought patterns or anxiety, all those things that kind of come along with having children and this phase of life. And that is how I prepped for the pregnancy. That is how I got through the pregnancy. And, you know, now it's more like a maintenance thing. Like if I feel like something is coming up or is getting difficult for me or I'm having too many intrusive thoughts, like zero shame, zero guilt, zero everything. I will go back weekly if I need to or whatever I need to manage that. I think there's so much stigma around addressing mental health issues and doing self-improvements, even still in 2023, which is crazy. But we know that, especially in the postpartum period, and that's like any time postpartum, that moms really struggle with mental health. So many moms struggle with mental health, and they don't even think it's a struggle with mental health. They think it's just normal motherhood, and it's not. Like, intrusive thoughts are not normal. Extreme anxiety is not normal. Being scared to leave your kids with anyone else, fear-based anything is not normal. Like, those things should be addressed. And that's how I address them. That's how I recommend other people addressing them. There's nothing special that I did. I just got professionals that specialize in this to help me through it. And I think it's super helpful for me. Like, I feel so much better and so much more present. And, you know, the pregnancy was tough emotionally, but post-pregnancy, it's been the best one I've had. And I feel really good. So I think I really have to thank my therapist for that. And then there's so many questions about breastfeeding, C-sections, rehab, exercise in pregnancy, hair loss, all those things I'm going to answer, but I'm going to put on story slides with text so I can like link you guys to the places that you want to go for like help or my C-section stuff or whatever. I also have our IBCLCs coming on to talk about lactation, so that'll be on the Birth Recovery Center Instagram. We have a C-section series coming up that's going to talk all about, you know, elective C-section, C-section recovery. Am I starving all the time because I'm breastfeeding and pumping extra? Yes. Yes, I am so hungry every day. And I'm not like limiting portion sizes. I'm just trying to choose a good macro balance and healthy anti-inflammatory foods, like food prepping, meal prepping every week with good healthy recipes that are like replenishing my body, supporting my milk supply, supporting my healing. but I haven't like dieted yet. I'm scaling back on what I'm pumping now. Once I scale that down, then I think I'll probably start like, dieting more to like lean out again, which I do want to do. And if you don't want to lean out, you don't have to. But for me, I want to be my goal weight and my goal body composition. So I'll start working on that soon. And yeah, is there anything else you'd like to add, Max, about fatherhood?
About breastfeeding? No, I know. That's great. Best job I ever had. Thanks for giving me more responsibility in my current role.
You're welcome. Are you going to get a vasectomy?
Apparently there's some health concerns around that.
I know. You guys are asking about that. I've heard some health concerns around a vasectomy. If he doesn't get a vasectomy, he's going to get on testosterone. Can I say that?
Well, there's some health concerns with that, too.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Like what?
You have to do it for the rest of your life.
Oh.
I'm 35.
Yeah.
God, 10 more years before I start doing that stuff. Maybe 5.
So we're just going to pull and pray and just hope we don't get pregnant again?
Worked this time.
After the constipation fiasco and pregnancy, my BH cannot handle a peen. I'm telling you right now. Some of you guys love it, though. Some of you guys love it. You tell me in DMs. Personally, not a fan. Ugh. Can't do it.
It's a good note to end on.
Yeah. We love you guys. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for being the best community ever. We'll be back again soon. Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. We have people in our guest house for like the next 6 weeks, basically. So we don't know. Maybe we'll shoot upstairs in our house.
Maybe.
I don't know. Okay. We love you. Until next time. Bye.